What's up, friends? Welcome back. Tane Nix here. Hope you can hear me because I keep getting the technology wrong. In this short video, I want to share with you something that I heard from a live podcast, from a podcast that featured my buddy Alex Krainer and also the great Martin Armstrong, who's a fairly deep thinker on all things financial and economic. If you're not familiar with these two guys, you probably should be, especially if you care about topics like what's happening in the world's monetary system, the world's economies, and also just the geopolitical tensions that that seem like everything right now is pointing toward more war and more violence, and that in history is always made for very dicey times, which means you need to be on your toes, which is why I'm shooting this video. I came across this. I'm going to play for you a clip. Let's see here, because I thought it was very poignant. Each of these two guys came to the same conclusion that I came to years ago. I spent decade and a half studying and learning about ancient healing systems. If you study ancient medicine on any level, on a professional level, to any depth or degree of seriousness, you will come to study medicine as it is practiced in Asia. China, in particular, was sort of the cradle of all of the various medical systems, whether it's Korean or Japanese or Tibetan or anything else. All of that, by and large, came out of China, at least the deep philosophical structure about holism. And I get into this elsewhere. It's not a topic for this video. But in studying medicine, I came face to face with very, very deep knowledge and understanding of the Chinese mindset. And this is very important because it's overlooked. It's something that nobody will talk about. There is no other source that I'm aware of where you can go and get deep, honest discussion of exactly, well, what do they think? Or more importantly, how do the Chinese think? How do they make sense of reality? Because it's qualitatively different than the way that Western people make sense of reality. Part of this has to do with their language, which is pictographic in nature. I mean, they talk in images, they talk in pictures. Chinese writing is a bunch of tiny ideograms, pictograms that convey meaning through images. Their language is so fundamentally different from Western Indo-European kind of language that they think differently. They think along different cognitive structure and a different line, cognitively speaking. And so all of this factors into what I'm about to show you. Let me just shut up and share screen here. Boom, boom, boom. This is clip number one. You're going to hear, I'll play it for you and then comment. This is Martin Armstrong discussing his interactions with some of the people that he knows at the highest level of Western governments in Europe, in the US. Listen. So my point here in highlighting this clip for you, linear analysis, cycles, those are two contrary points of view. connections between things. The Asian mind thinks in terms of cyclicality. The Western mind thinks in terms of linear, like this step, then the next one. To the Asian mindset, to the cognitive model of the, if I say the old world, if you're in North America or you're Western European kind of descent, you think of Europe. The old world to us, especially in North America, is Europe. But the old world to Europe is Asia, right? The old world is Asia. The oldest cultures come out of Asia. The oldest consistent culture with a consistent history that we can trace back, sort of unbroken, right? Written records, et cetera, all of that comes out of China, out of Asia, right? Those are the oldest cultures that we know about. And they understand, possibly because they're so old, possibly because their culture is so antiquated, not antiquated, but because there's such a long reach back into antiquity, they have very, very clear understanding of the very big cycles that take place. Right now, we are living through the turning of a cycle. That's what all of this fourth turning discussion is about. That's why that book has such cachet. That's why all of the discussion about, like, gee, what comes next? Westerners do not pay attention to cycles. This is something that came clear to me, 20 odd years ago when I was deep in my own study of medicine. Like, oh, here's how they think differently than we think from my culture of origin, which is the United States. We do not think in terms of long historical cycles where things don't exactly repeat, but they're damn similar. And that's what's happening. And this is a revelation to Western people. This is like a big, like, whoa, really? So the other thing that Martin Armstrong mentioned is the connections between things. Like, okay, so you want to attack and provoke Russia, and you're going to blow up their pipeline, and you're going to do all these things to try to overthrow Putin, and so you can steal the resources out of Russia. That costs money. And if the only way you can raise money is to get foreigners to buy your bonds, how are they going to buy your bonds? They don't trust you anymore. You just stole $300 billion from the Russians after blowing up their pipeline. Who's going to buy your bonds to finance your war? Well, in the end, your own central bank has to do that because nobody else will lend you the money to attack them, right? I mean, the absurdity of what's taking place is kind of good news. Like, we may not be able to have World War III because we've outsourced all of our military supply chains to our enemies. So they're not going to send us the things we need to build the weapons to kill them, right? Like, it's preposterous what's taking place. And the stupidity of the people in charge of the institutions in the West is exactly that they don't understand that those things are connected. But you can't steal money from Russia and blow up their pipeline and then sell bonds to finance the war to kill them. You can't do it. Nobody wants to give you the money, which means you have to print the money, right? Like, nobody can think outside of their own domain. You have finance people, and that's what they know. They know finance and they know money, and that's it. And then you have a military guy, and he knows how to kill people and break shit, right? And that's it. That's all they get. They don't see that these two things are connected. The Asian mind is very different. They think along the lines of, oh, there's a pattern here. This is connected to that, and that influences this, and this over here influences the first thing. And then all of these things interact together. They don't think the way the Western mind is specialized. It's a siloed kind of knowledge that we've developed. We elevate, like, oh, this guy is the heart surgeon. It's like, okay, but what if you have heart problems and the heart problems are causing kidney problems? You need a heart surgeon or a heart doctor who understands nephrology as well. Well, they don't exist, right? You have a specialist in one area and a specialist in the other area, and never the twain shall meet. That's what we have. That's our model. That's how we think and structure our society. Their thinking is very different. Their thinking is about how this influences that and how this connects to that. That's just their normal way of making sense of reality. How did I figure all this out? Well, one of the things that happened to me, I apprenticed with a mentor in medicine. I learned ancient medicine from my mentor, who died this week, as I was told. remember the guy very fondly. He was a tremendous teacher and a great figure. And one of the things that he shared with me was how to use this very obscure topic for North Americans and Europeans, and it's shrouded in all kinds of new age nonsense. But he taught me how to use the I Ching. The I Ching is known in the West as the classic of change. It's a fundamental text to the Chinese cognitive model, if you will, that is really about cycles, connections between things. I could say a lot about it, and I have elsewhere, but understanding what the I Ching actually is a fascinating study of how the Chinese mind works, how Asian people think. And so my study of the I Ching, and I'm 27 years into it, it's not something that you finish right in a single lifetime, but it is fascinating to consult it and know how to use the book. It's an interactive text. Um, Neophytes and basically dumb people think it's like a kind of Chinese fortune cookie. It's not that. It's not a way to tell the future. It's not really that. It's a way to introspect about what's happening around you and how things fit together and what might be influencing this and how you can make sense of the totality, the pattern of events that are taking place. And so I won't say more about that here, but suffice to say, this is the software of the Chinese mind. If you understand the I Ching at any level beyond a kind of new age understanding, you understand that the Chinese think very, very differently about, they think cyclically, they think in terms of connections, they think in terms of patterns of events, patterns of factors that are interacting and influencing one another. You can see this in their medical system, which I've spent 2 decades plus now studying and practicing. Their medical system is based on patterns of symptoms. It's not based on like molecular, cellular level analysis. That's a Western reductionist phenomenon. So my point here is what's happening that's going to throw so many people and that has so many people in the West on their back foot is the cycle of history has come full circle. The elevation of individuality is breaking down. And you know it's breaking down because the epitome of individual expression has turned to and has turned into and has become, hey, I have a dick, or hey, I have a dick, but I'm a woman. Hey, I have a pussy, but I'm actually a man. Like, no, you're not. You're mentally and cognitively confused about what's happening because you think that you're such an individual that you can dictate terms to reality and to the rest of society and force people to go along with it. That's a perversion of individuality, pun intended. It's not the case that you get to create all of your reality. We've gone so far in the West, like, well, I'm an individual. I create my own reality, right? That became such a cliche, uniquely Western thought, an idea. And let's be honest, obviously, there's tremendous utility in it. The West set the individual free to blossom as never before. And the flowering was fantastic. It's been an unbelievable run. But nobody in the West is capable or desirous of losing the tremendous power that we've gained over a cycle of at least 500 years, depending on how far you want to go back, right? I mean, from Renaissance Italy straight through to, right, the capital markets and individuals creating businesses and innovating, right? All the innovations in the world come from a single individual, right? It's not the same individual, but it's nobody. It wasn't a group thought that created, for example, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, the iPhone. No, one guy thought of that, right? Or the iPod, right? No, Steve Jobs thought of it, right? It took a team to build it, but the innovation came from an individual. Innovation in society comes from individuals. And you can look right down the line, right? From Thomas Edison to John Browning. It doesn't matter where you look, like anything that was developed came from the mind of some person, some individual person. So the collectivist mindset that exists in the East took a beating in the last 500 years. And it took a beating because individuals had the freedom and the resource and the technology, and the industry finally developed to a point where one individual could just do unbelievably remarkable, world-changing kind of events and innovations. And now we're headed back to collectivism. The collectivist thing, right? The wheel went around, and now it's like, look, the world is fracturing in such a way And individuality has been, in a certain sense, abused. I mean, not in the best kind of individuality still has the exact same importance that it always has had. But the chaos that's coming is going to demand that people band together in communities. There's no getting around this. And it's why I've created this channel and why I talk about the things I do and why I'm trying to pull people together of like mind who share values. This is going to be the most important resource going forward, your community. And so the collectivization in a positive sense, like building a team of people who know how to help and look out for each other. You actually, I won't play the clip for you, but Alex Krainer says this at the end. Let me now play the second clip, which is Alex Krainer talking about his conclusion about what's coming too, because it's fascinating. Watch this. Oops, oops, oops. Okay. So that's what I wanted to share with you. That's damned interesting because they saw what they see, what I saw. I wrote something called the Expat Declaration of Independence. And right at the top of that document, I'll put it in the description below here in case you want to download it, in case you want to read it in like an hour. But my whole point was look, no politician in the West will tell you this. No elite who's running our society will admit this. They all have a hard on for what the Chinese have done. And it's coming. Sorry, that's a bad image. But my point is Western elite leadership at the political level and at the level of corporatocracy and obviously the technocracy is all about copying and mimicking what the Chinese have done. And what have the Chinese done? They figured out that with a bunch of cameras and a bunch of QR codes and a bunch of smart devices, they can control 1 billion people and keep it pretty peaceful and calm. You got a huge, huge workforce of worker bees, and they all do what they're fucking told. Because if they don't, curtains for you. And you think the Western leadership care about your freedom? You think the Western leadership is, interested in your personal liberty going forward? Not a chance. They all want what the Chinese government has put together. And so the solutions that are coming will come. You want to know what the future looks like? Look to the East because they've got it right for this time. I'm not a fan of this. I'm not cheering this on. It's a horrible, horrible development. Is it going to be abused? You bet. If they get a CBDC in place, boy, we are finished. I mean, it is truly. I'm rereading 1984, which is really about the extinguishing of one man's humanity. Winston Smith, the protagonist, it's his story about how he's recording his thoughts, and you're not allowed to record your thoughts. You're not allowed to think. You're not allowed to be a human being in George Orwell's famous novel. And if you get a CBDC, well, you might as well not think anymore because that's the end, right? If you don't obey, boy, they'll just kill you, right? And so, and that is hard for people to accept, but it's the wet dream of psychotic bureaucrats everywhere to have that kind of power. It is as close to godhood as human beings could become because you can order everybody else to obey and in fact would have to obey or you can just kill them. And so on that cheery note, That's what I wanted to share. The future is in the East because the historical moment is moving us in that direction. And when the West breaks down in chaos and war and violence and all the rest, which is what everybody in charge seems to be pushing for, knowing that they're losing their power and that the only way to maintain even a modicum of influence over their societies is to create chaos and violence and then use the power of the state to restore order and bring everybody back into the fold and into line. It's coming. That's where we're headed. I hope it doesn't happen. I'd be very happy to be wrong. I'd be very happy to be shooting a video saying how wrong I was. But right now, that's the trajectory and that's what's coming. So please, do yourself a favor. I put together care about your future and your family's future and your wealth, right? Now is the time to put a plan in place. Give yourself the best opportunity, right? You want to be as far from your home government, not just geographically. And here I don't mean far, like in terms of distance geographically, but you need to be legally and physically, right? If push comes to shove, outside of the reach of your home government as quickly as you can get there. That's why I created the Bulletproof Plan B. You can see the description below. You can see the link in the description below. Just enter your name and email, and I'll send you a copy for free. There's nothing to buy, right? Check it out and get busy. I also put some other great stuff down there. I had, as I said, 2 decades in working and studying in ancient holistic medicine and teaching this at a very high level to doctors in big hospitals like Cleveland Clinic. And it's such a marvelous healing system that came out of China. It really is their gift to the world. Again, this is another thing most Westerners have no idea about, but especially if you're dealing with like aging, chronic conditions, right? Chronic symptoms, chronic illness of any kind. If you know the medical system from Asia, there is nothing in modern mainstream Western medicine that even compares with it. Nothing even approaches it. And the good news is anybody can learn the ancient holistic system from Asia. I put a whole program together. It's called the Nix Institute for Self-Healing and Integration. Check it out. I also put a book together with that. You can get that very inexpensively. And once you have this skill for managing your chronic conditions, you have it for life. This is something that will keep you out of your doctor's office and off pills and headaches and expense of both surgeries and insurance headaches and all the rest. This is the greatest thing you could learn for your health, bar none. It's not about buying supplements. It's not about doing a bunch of new age bullshit. And it's not about, it's not a bunch of new age mumbo jumbo. This is natural healing at the highest level. Check it out. That's enough out of me. Thanks very much. Remember, the best way to avoid the coming chaos is to get out of town.